Let's talk about Charlemagne the God.
Hmm. Shout out to the
Shout out
guy.
to Charlemagne the God show. So it's what do you think of Charlemagne's prediction that media companies are dying in this era and there will eventually only be two main streaming companies that will remain after the collapse?
Yeah, this is something him and Schultz talked about on Brilliant Idiots, and I posted it this past weekend. Going back to the actor strike, I think one of the things that is not talked about enough and that they brought up is that um, the profitability is not there how everyone thinks. I know Joe, when he was in the spot negotiations, he asked a brilliant question that never got answered, which was, what is the value of a stream? And Spotify never gave that answer for a multitude of reasons. I think a lot of these streaming companies are in a bad position because they are not as profitable and they just spent too much money on content. Like, it's a horrible model to make a show for $100 million and expect it to make the money back $14 or $9 at a time. I don't know if there will be two players only, but I think there will be a big four, as there is in most businesses. I think it'll eventually just be Apple, Netflix, Hulu, and maybe one player. But like this proliferation of a whole bunch of streaming apps, the margins are not there. And we see it is reflective in Disney wanting to get rid of ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
They're making less Star Wars content. They want to get
Mm-hmm.
rid of Marvel. So if you're telling me that the best media brand in American history is selling off arguably one of the best sports brands, the best cartoon brand, and the best sci-fi brand, you can't tell me that Spotify is fucking crushing it. It's impossible. And it's a conversation that like we've had before. And I always ask the question, if I was given $1.2 billion to build a podcast division, and the only hit I got out of it was Joe Rogan, and Will Smith did 12 episodes, and Megan and Harry did 15 episodes, and then they just walked off how Rick Ross did on 85 South, what would I be called? And it was just some kind of blunder for Daniel at Spotify. And I don't have any issue with Daniel. I think he's an amazing CEO. But I think the truth is going to be told in maybe a year or two about the majority of these media companies. And I keep saying it. I ask you guys, I ask Charlemagne, I ask Joe, I ask Schultz, how many people are making $1 million more from podcasting or media? Not many. If the numbers were so insane that a talent was drawing in $40 and $50 million a year from that show, it'd be easy to pay them $1 million. The reason why there aren't a lot of people making $1 million plus in the space is because they don't draw that much value. And I think we're seeing it at scale as we are in a recession that they will not announce. That most media properties are not doing as well as we think.
Man, that was well said. That was well said. He's on to something, and he's pretty accurate when I looked at it from a terms of it's like the Jay-Z line, less is more, right? So when we watch Bob Iger speak, if you read it between the lines, he's telling you the same thing, less is more. So when he's saying like, yes, Pixar, we've missed. Like, if we're gonna be honest, we've missed on a bunch of movies. We're gonna cut back on making those movies, right? We had Star Wars and Lucasfilms put out the Indiana Jones movie. It didn't hit like we thought.
I didn't even know it came out.
it didn't hit like they thought it would. All right, well, we've got to scale back. But I think the Marvel thing is the biggest one because it was like, okay, the movies did so well, and that was leading up to the pandemic. But then they started putting out shows that nobody watched. So we have to cut back. The problem is that, and Disney's one, but I mean, all these streaming services, Netflix, even to a certain extent, they're accumulating debt with no real concrete strategy of how to accumulate more revenue. And that's the real issue, right? So like when Iger's talking about, hey, yeah, we have ESPN, but these contracts that we have with these leagues, they cost billions. How are we going to pay for it? How do we keep them and pay for it? And so reading between that is like, now who is the company that is going to partner to purchase ESPN to have those rights? Because I'm sure Disney will want to stay involved in it somehow, right? Because they own ABC and they can broadcast nationally. So who becomes that? Does it become an Apple to say, okay, we'll partner, we'll take the sports division, we'll take ESPN, and we'll figure this out? Or, and this was an interesting one, and I didn't even think of it. What if a company like Fanatics decides that we are now your sports partner? They already have the merchandising,
Yes.
but they don't have the network to do TV. But what if you combine both of them? Now it becomes interesting. And so we talked about Michael Rubin all the time. We've watched the net worth of his company grow. We watched it go from 2 billion to 6 billion. Now I think it's valuated at like 28 billion. What if they now decide to partner because they already have licensing deals with all the leagues for the merchandising? Now, what if we package the merchandising with the TV rights? That becomes super interesting.
Great. You got a crystal ball. Great minds think alike. You know what? When they had that party, the first thing I thought, this looks like the title rollout from 10 years ago. How you get Jay-Z, LeBron, Meek, Lil Baby getting hugs from behind, pause, right? To get all those people in the same room at the same time, you think they was there just to drink Douce? I'm like, damn, this look like the title rollout, but better. And Jay's already infiltrated and took over sports. Robinson could know you coming with me. He told y'all 10 years ago. Good. Put out the book of Hove and then, okay, what will be best? Find a way for your talent to be on TV that you own or a network that you own all the time. I think it would be the next evolution. So I definitely agree. While everything is in recession, and the other issue, we don't have enough people that want to be consumers when everybody wants to be a star.
Well, I think that also it's a new age of media. I think like who's really watching movies at a fast pace these days? Like people, I know some people are still gonna watch movies, but the vast majority of people, I'm not. I'm on my phone. I'm not really watching movies. So many movies come out on Netflix that I've never seen, or they come out on these weird streaming services. Like,
shout out to Tubi.
Not even Tubi, but I mean, let's just be honest. Have you ever watched anything on Apple Plus? Shout out to Steph Curry. His documentary just came out. But I mean, no, it just is what it is, though.
I watched one interview with Oprah on there.
I've never watched one thing on Apple Plus. I probably watched 2 things on Hulu.
Is Hijack on Apple Plus or no?
But you said you don't consume TV though.
But I'm just saying I don't know anybody. I'm in the loop. Nobody's watching Apple Plus.
People are watching Apple Plus. You don't consume it, but
we're gonna be honest, or we just gonna be
people. I'm gonna tell you that. People,
hey, let's be honest.
No, honestly, now are people? Is it Netflix? No, but people are consuming the content.
Do you know anybody that watches Apple Plus on a regular basis?
You know me.
No,
that's not a fair assessment. I know you. You know me. I've watched content on there.
Everybody is fudging the numbers and streaming.
Exactly.
That's true too.
It's not passing the eye test.
No, both things are true.
Not passing the eye test.
Both things are true.
It's not passing the eye test. And like you said, it costs money to produce these things, these movies, these documentaries, these shows. It costs money to produce this.
1,000%.
It's going on these streaming services that's behind a paywall. At least on YouTube, you can see numbers. They might be inflated, but at least you can see the numbers. Like Revolt. I'm not sure how many people actually watch Revolt on TV, but you can see the numbers on YouTube. Drink Champs, Tony Yayo, 3 million views in 3 days. Like, shout out to Revolt. As Over Liability season 3 comes out next
By the way,
shameless plug. But all I'm saying is that I think it's just a new age of media, and I think low costing content. This is why
with high quality.
With high quality. This is why this is why the podcast scene has really taken off. It's low costing content. It's easy to produce. It's easy to put out, and I think that content has become like music. Before, music meant a lot, and you had an album, and you would sit with that album for 6 months. Now, Gunna comes out with a song, and then Tekashi 6ix9ine comes out with a song with Kodak Black 3 days later. It's just it's so disposable. It's so disposable. That's how content is. Content is like Drake does an interview in bed with the TikTok girl, and then Elliot Wilson, he's going back and forth with Drake the next week. It's just like you gotta. It's so disposable. Like the content, and Dame Dash warned us. Shout out to Dame when Dame went on the Breakfast Club 10 years ago, and it was very insightful conversation that he had, and that's when he was telling Envy then like, yo, you don't own this, and then Envy was like, I own a stock in the company. I don't even think the company's publicly traded. I'm not sure he owns stocks.
Not at that time. Yeah.
That was difficult for him to do, but. It was just a difficult thing to pull off at that time. But the thing about it is that you have to read the tea leaves.
This is true.
You have to read the tea leaves.
We agreeing.
And Charlemagne was smart enough to read the tea leaves. started not only his podcast that he's done, but he starts the Black Effect Podcast Network, right? This makes sense because now you go into the lane of where media is headed. So it'll be interesting to see where media plays over the next 10 years. But I just feel like a lot of people's wasting a lot of money. These streaming services, nobody's watching them. And yeah, it's not a good business model.
Yeah, so you agreeing with what Bob Iger's saying? He's saying the same exact thing. Less is more. Like, we messed this up. How are we gonna fix this? Here's how. We've got to stop doing this. This isn't making any money. We overshot this. Nobody's watching She-Hulk. No disrespect, but nobody's watching it. Right? You can put out Daredevil. Nobody's watching it. Right? It used to be like, hey, if we create these characters, then they do well in the end game, and then we can give them their own individual series. And that might have worked for one or two, but some of these characters, there's no investment in them, right? Then they put it didn't work on the streaming, so they put it on ABC, and you started seeing Agent Shield on ABC. Where did that go? It's going because there's no investment there, so they overdid it. So less is more. You're right.
And then of course when you
ain't watch Agent Shield.
No, absolutely not. This show's terrible. Shout out to everybody who's on the show. But like when you are not having, it's too many suits in the creative business that is not looking to make great creative. And of course, like you have to judge a business like how can it thrive in an economy when people don't have a surplus of money. In 2018, 2019, 2020, up until March, everyone thought everything was fine. Always calibrate to see, okay, great. How well will things do if the market dries up and people don't have as much money? Number two, once again, like Rashad said, the cost for these shows were too damn high. So like you have to, everything is a hedge fund business. Like as soon as I saw Pat McAfee get brought over to ESPN, I'm like, I wonder how much the betting will go up because he's a player that can call things on the fly in real time that can make people money. As soon as I saw Romo say, hey, this is the play they're going to run, and people start betting on it, that's the hedge fund business. It's all about risk to reward. Like if I pay $10 for content, can I get $100 out of it? It's really hard to make up a $300 million movie $15 or $7 at a time. It's damn near impossible to do so.
It's Hollywood is a place where there is tremendous amount of waste. It's a bad business model. They waste money. There's too many people with their hands in the pot. They take too long. There's too many gatekeepers. And that's why they're on strike now. Like technology is going to replace jobs. No matter what they try to do with the strike and try to put the language in, you can't erase AI. It's here to stay. So the whole idea of Hollywood is fading away. It's actually it's a bad business model that's dying. And the sooner they realize that, the better off they'll be. They're trying to save the golden age of Hollywood. It's over.
It's done.
It's over.
Lethal Weapon.
Great movie though.
It's old. No, I'm saying that's never gonna happen.
Yeah,
like those are it's
Bad
over.
Boys 2. Like
it's over. Like those blockbuster.
They're trying to do it.
They trying to do it. Like how much money did they spend? Like how much money did they spend on Barbie?
A huge. That budget is crazy.
It's not passing the eye test.
It did 155.
They spent $1 billion.
They ain't spending.
They spent a lot.
They probably spent
a lot.
They spent a lot. And if anybody's looking at Mattel, which owns Barbie, and 20% of the revenue from Mattel comes from Barbie's merchandising, MAT is a stock just for you watch this. But continue.
They spent a lot.
They did spend a lot.
I'm not a forensic
we don't know return on investment.
I'm just a common sense person. I think they
want to spend $150 on marketing.
And they made 155 first.
At least 150 on marketing. I think they spent more, but that's not even the actors.
That's just domestic.
That's
just domestic.
I think they're losing money on this. That's my whole point.
We'll see.
I don't know. I'm not 100%.
But even
certain.
if it does well, right? Let's say it does well. There's only been $1 billion movie and we can't even count that. Well, we can count it. There's only been $1 billion movie this year for all the marketing and all these movies. You know what it is?
What's that?
You know?
Black Panther.
That was last year.
What?
Mario Brothers, bro. Mario Brothers is the only $1 billion movie this year. They can't count Avatar because it came out in December. So Mario Brothers is the only one that's done $1 billion. Even if this does, it's not a fair assessment of what the movie situation looks like. Because it's one. It's one out of 4 or 5 movies come out a week. We don't go see any of them. The model is different. Now when they come out, they got 30 days to put it on. But you brought up something with the Pat McAfee thing. because Disney is losing money, right?
Mhm.
ESPN is it's cost them a lot of money. There's a free agent out there that they keep saying is coming to the network.
Oh, baby.
What do you think Shannon Sharp is worth?
The real number?
What do you think the real number, right? Because there's talks. Even Stephen A. says that, like, he wants to bring him to the show. If Pat McAfee is 5 years, 85 million.
But Stephen A. Smith got like 12 million or something.
I think
Underpaid.
he's underpaid. Even he's underpaid.
To work 7 days a week, going to Utah, going to
For real. They got him doing lacrosse games and shit. Like,
that's a fact. He's running around the globe for
I am good.
yo.
Jesus. Somebody get Stephen A. Smith on the show.
We ain't going back to Salt Lake now, man. It's over. It's gonna be interesting to see. I'm interested in seeing that, especially when you hear the CEO of the company saying that, we're losing money. In fact, we got to figure out how we're gonna get this $27 billion to get Hulu, because that's on the ticker before the end of the year. Yep. Then we got to figure out how we're gonna pay Fox $71 million for the Searchlight deal. I mean, like, where are we getting the money?
That's it. Disney Plus, too much. They got too much going on.
I think
they're gonna combine Hulu and Disney. That was one of the plans he said.
And I don't know when it will happen, and not to cut you off, but I think
71 billion. I'm sorry, 71 billion, not million.
Jesus. And guess what? Here's a model that I think would be really amazing. Shoot a $15 million movie, bring it to me. I'll give you 60% of the revenue, and we keep 40. And if they incentivize Mr. Beast to do it because he's doing these big ass productions, I think YouTube could end up being one of the biggest movie producers in the next 10 years. They have a better here's their model. I'll pay you after the shit works. Not bad.
Good idea.
It's only a 1% chance of failure. The way that Hollywood has been doing it, any accountant would tell you that is an upside down business model. You're running negative. Like, even if you had a string of, like, now Marvel and The Rock isn't working. I knew the movie industry was in trouble when they started talking bad about the Black Adam flop and wanted to get The Rock out of DC. I said, if he can't make that franchise work and him and Superman are not getting along, it's over with. Here's a novel idea. Build something that people want, monetize it after, or the creators put your own money up and bring it up.
Yeah, there's only a few franchises that work. DC it's a struggle. That Fast and Furious did all right, but it's just one franchise that they just keep doing over and over and over again. People love it, but just make the product and we'll pay you.
It's like the same thing with corporate is the same thing with government. They're all stupid, and they're out of touch, and they're only white men. And it's a small demographic of the society that's making rules for everything, and they're completely out of touch. Write the check for InvestFest. That's a perfect example. I don't know why InvestFest doesn't have $10 million in corporate sponsorships, because they're out of touch of what's going on. You get 20,000 people to come to learn about financial literacy. Where else in the world has that actually ever happened? And we got to kind of go back and forth with pitch decks, and because they are out of touch with reality
meetings.
And it's controlled by a small minority of white men who don't even know what earn your leisure is. This is what music. This is why the music sounds like it sounds. This is why the content is produced how it is. And it's the same thing over and over again. They're wasting money, and they don't know what's happening with culture, society. And they keep just striking out, and they get afforded luxuries to keep striking out, and they get rehired. They get fired from one company, and then they get hired at another company, and it's a whole network of nonsense. And it's been happening forever.
Yeah.
We need
more innovation. Yeah, it's true.
That was power, and he's 100% accurate.
And for anyone who thinks this is just his rant, when I say, hey, we don't have 25 productive companies, or like, why do you guys always talk about Apple and Microsoft? Because Duracell is not a great company. Sorry, like, most of the companies that we love are not even here. Samsung is not an American property. Like, we have so much inefficiency in, like you said, in schooling, bureaucracy, government, corporate, like, come on, like, the bloat is too much, and then it's a slow erosion of our economy as a result. But then the biggest companies could go to other countries that they help build, but won't help build us here. But what do I know? If I made you money, please put yes in chat. Media businesses are in trouble.
Thank you, Charlamagne.